now. Hi, welcome to Experience UMKC. I am very excited that you chose to spend some time with the School of Pharmacy. My name is Amanda. I am the recruiter for the School of Pharmacy. I work in student affairs. So at the end of this, I will make sure you have my contact info so you can reach out with any questions that you might have for us. But today, we're just going to share a little bit about our program and kind of steps to get into the program. And I brought in some students who are completing their final year in the program, Jordan and Carly, and they're on this Zoom session as well. So after I share a little bit, I'm going to ask them some questions and we can hear their answers and kind of their experience throughout their time in the program. So I'm going to try to share my screen. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. Awesome. All right, so starting out, I want to give just kind of a quick overview of the steps to get into pharmacy school and how that can look different for everybody. So for the Pharmd program here at UMKC, you are not required to have a bachelor's degree. You're only required to have some prerequisite courses done. Those prerequisite courses are about 60 hours worth of coursework, and they vary in some of your typical things like English, history, communications, and then also heavy in the sciences, chemistry and biology, because you'll be using a lot of that throughout your time in the Pharmd program. So all of those courses amount to about 60 hours. The shortest amount of time you can complete your prerequisite is 2 years. We have a lot of students who have dual credit from high school, or maybe they take AP exams and receive college credit that way. That's awesome, and we can look into transferring those into the program. But even if you have a couple of college classes already done, it most likely will still take you 2 years to complete the prereqs, just the nature of how the courses are lined up. There's a lot of sequential courses, so you need to take Chem 1 before Chem 2, OChem 1 before OChem 2, so it will expect to take a minimum of 2 years. Then the Pharmd program is 4 years long, and there's no variation on how long the Pharmd program is. That's 4 years total. So the shortest route to get through and receive your doctorate of pharmacy would be 2 years prereqs, 4 years at Pharmd. You're in and out in 6 years total and have your doctorate, which is a pretty quick turnaround. With the 2-year route, if you are interested in completing your prereqs that way, and you're interested in completing them at UMKC or Mizzou, we have something called the Early Assurance Program. The Early Assurance Program is available for students who are wanting to complete their prereqs in 2 years and then move on to our Pharmd program. That EA program helps students and assist them throughout their time. They have a couple of perks, such as special workshops for our EA students. We bring them in to chat with pharmacy students. We bring them in to meet with alumni of our program. We have them discuss, how to take the Pcat, when to apply, how the whole application process works. So we really just give them an inside look into the School of Pharmacy and connect them with the School of Pharmacy while they're doing your prereqs. So that's a great option for students if they're wanting to do their prereqs at UMKC or MU. There are a couple of academic requirements for the EA program, one being a 25 or higher ACT composite score, and then the other is a 3.5 GPA at the end of your junior year. So if you are a senior currently, you should know whether or not you are eligible for the EA program. If you are and you're interested, please get in contact with me. I'd love to get you signed up for that. So that's the shortest route, but by no means is that the only route. And I want to make it really clear to students that you can take longer than 2 years to complete your prereqs if you want to or if you need to. You can take 3 years to complete your prereqs. A lot of the prereqs, like we talked about, are heavy in sciences. So those can be tougher courses. If you don't want to load up and try to complete your prereqs in the shortest amount of time, there's no harm in spreading them out over 3 years. A lot of our students decide, hey, if I'm doing all these prereqs and they're so closely related to something like biology or chemistry, I might as well get a bachelor's degree. So they take 4 years to complete their prereqs as well as a bachelor's degree. Again, totally fine. We don't take any preference to students who completed their prereqs in the shortest amount of time. We just want you to have them done. We want you to know the information from them, and we want you to receive good grades in them. So this next slide just goes a little bit more over what we need for the Pharmd program. Like I said, about 60 hours of courses, which are those prereqs. On the right-hand side, you can see I put up one of our transfer equivalency pages. This one's for K-State, but you can see on the left-hand side of that page, it is the required courses and kind of their basic names. So general chemistry, general bio. On the right-hand side, you can see what, in this case, K-State specifically names their courses. So if you don't want to do your prereqs at UMKC or Mizzou, you have the option to take them elsewhere. Or maybe we talked about possibly having high school credit, dual credit. If you took courses through a community college through that, maybe look up our transfer equivalency site and see if any of those are our prerequisites for the Pharmd program and you already have those done with. So for Pharmd program, we do require a minimum of a 2.5 math and science GPA and a 2.75 cumulative GPA. We see that our average for students accepted into the program sits around a 3.4 GPA. So we tell students that if they want to make sure they're a competitive applicant, shoot for that 3.5 or higher GPA. That would be really, really great, especially considering those harder chemistry and biology courses. We also require the Pcat. Now, the Pcat is a standardized test and it's an entrance exam for the Pharmd program. It's very similar to the ACT. You are able to take it multiple times. So if you need to take it a couple times, that's totally fine. It does cost money. So maybe try to study a bit before you take it multiple times. But if you aren't happy with the first score, you can definitely take it again or a couple of times. The average for the Pcat is sitting around a 60th percentile. That seems, at least to me, pretty low when I first saw that. That's the average of our students who are accepted, but there's a good reason behind it. About a little over half of our students enter the Pharmd program after just 2 years of prereqs, which means they're applying to the Pharmd program after their freshman year of college. So the beginning of their sophomore year of college, they're needing to take the Pcat and submit their transcripts and all of that to apply so they can start the very next fall. Well, they only have 1 year of college under their belt, so they're missing about half of the classes that would help them excel on this Pcat. So that's why we see our average is sitting around a 60th. It's not because we're taking lower quality scores or lower quality students by any means. It's just that a lot of our students take it after just 1 year of college. So it makes sense as to why the average is sitting around there. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of it, but we do have 3 different sites for our pharmacy program. And it's a little bit confusing how this can work, but they are all UMKC School of Pharmacy. We're just split up between 3 different sites. So we have Kansas City, obviously, and that's located on the Health Sciences District campus. We have Columbia, that's located in the middle of Mizzou's campus, and we have Springfield, which is about 5 minutes away from MSU's campus. Total, we accept 155 students throughout these 3 locations, 95 in Kansas City, 30 in Columbia, 30 in Springfield, but they are all a part of one class. They're just taking their courses on different campuses. So we tag it as 3 campuses, 1 classroom. We work with simultaneous lectures. So every single, let's set up a scenario where I'm a first year pharmacy student and I need to be in pharmacology Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. and I'm on Kansas City's campus. If I'm a first year pharmacy student in Columbia and Springfield, I also need to be in my classroom at 9 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for pharmacology. I'm receiving the exact same lecture as the Kansas City students. I'm just receiving it via Polycom, which I describe as a very advanced FaceTime for the students. About 80% of the time, the lectures will come from Kansas City. That's just because our building is bigger, we've been around longer, we have more space for the faculty members. So majority of the time it comes from Kansas City, meaning Kansas City students physically have the faculty member in the classroom with them. The other 20% of the time, it'll be coming from Columbia or Springfield, because we do have full-time faculty and staff over in Columbia and Springfield that work just for UMKC School of Pharmacy. So sometimes the lectures will be coming from those other two sites, and Kansas City will become the satellite school. I'll be sure to ask Jordan and Carly later on when we're talking with them kind of their experience with the Polycom system and their thoughts with 3 different campuses. You do spend all 4 years at the same location. So you'll travel just to Kansas City for the big events if you're not a Kansas City student. Those are for things like orientation, your first year, white coat ceremony, your second year, and graduation, your 4th year. So this is Kansas City's campus. It's called the Health Sciences District campus, and that's because we share it with the School of Medicine, School of Dentistry, and School of Nursing and Health Studies. Our building is split with the School of Nursing and Health Studies. You can see maybe on the right picture, kind of the Kansas City skyline. We also are right next door to Truman Medical Center and Children's Mercy. So it's really cool that we have 2 giant hospitals within a stone's throw from us to collaborate with and work with. Columbia's campus is a bit different because it's located right within the undergraduate campus of Mizzou. So that's a really cool atmosphere for students if they're wanting that sort of atmosphere to be located in a big college campus. That's a really cool opportunity for them there. The class size is a little bit smaller. There's about 30 students in each class in Columbia. And then same with Springfield, about 30 students in Springfield's class each year. It's in a building called Brick City, which is about 5 minutes away from MSU's campus. I love the Springfield campus. I think it's really cool. It's on the 4th floor of this Brick City building, and it was designed just for our School of Pharmacy. So they have a lounge area in the middle. They have mini ping pong tables. I just really like the way Springfield's set up. And then a short rundown of the curriculum, and I'll let our students explain it a little bit more. But the first 3 years, you're going to be in the classroom, you're going to be going to lectures, doing case studies, going to lab, and completing what are called IPPEs, which are kind of mini rotations to get you prepped for your 4th year, where you will complete 9 one-month-long rotations. One other thing I wanted to discuss was all of the different organizations we have at UMKC School of Pharmacy, and this is across the board at the Kansas City site, the Columbia site, and the Springfield site. There's tons of different ways to get involved, to practice your leadership, to practice community service, and then put what you're learning in pharmacy school into use for the community. We offer a whole pool of scholarships for our Pharmd students. So if you are looking at the financial aid and you're wanting to go to maybe UMKC to complete your prereqs, that financial aid is separate from what you would be receiving in the pharmacy program. So make sure that you either reach out to us or the financial aid office to make sure you're understanding that correctly. But once you get to the Pharmd program, we do have our very own pool of scholarships and someone working with your financial aid for that. Also, if you are an out-of-state student, the Pharmd program will cover 90% of your out-of-state cost. This is from our Dean's Non-Resident Award, so you don't have to do anything special with this. If you're not a resident of Missouri, say you're a resident of Kansas or Nebraska, Tennessee, wherever it might be, you automatically get the Dean's Non-Resident Award, which means you're paying in-state tuition plus 10% out-of-state tuition for our program. So that makes it way more affordable and way more feasible for our students to for our out-of-state students to choose us to complete their pharmacy program. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can go to Jordan and Carly and ask them some questions here. First off, maybe we can start with Jordan. Can you introduce yourself, just a little bit about you?
Yeah, so my name is Jordan. As Amanda said, I'm a 4th year pharmacy student. I actually went to the Kansas City campus, and Kansas City has kind of been home for me. So.
Awesome. And Carly? Uh-oh, Carly, it looks like you might be muted, which was good earlier.
My name is Carly Rainey, and I am a 4th year student currently on rotations as well, and I am from the Kansas City campus as well.
Awesome. Well, my first question for you all, I was wondering where you completed your prereqs at, and kind of what that transition looked like from going to, I know high school seems like possibly a long time ago to when you were there, but thinking about when you made that transition from high school to your undergraduate time completing your prereqs.
So I did my undergraduate work at Mid-America Nazarene University, which is a small private school in Olathe, Kansas. I actually, as Amanda was talking about earlier, I did 3 years of prereqs. So I did 2 at Mid-America, and I did a 3rd year at UMKC before getting into the program. So a great option as well. But high school, I mean, the transition for me, I guess in high school, I kind of skated by some of the science classes. I think are a good introduction to a little bit more difficult coursework that you might see in the pharmacy program. So it like really helped me to learn how to plan ahead with classes and not just go day by day like I did in high school. So.
And I did my undergrad, I did 2 years, and I did both of them at UMKC in Kansas City. And so the biggest transition for me was just figuring out how to study, learning that you can't do it the night before anymore, and you actually have to be putting in the work to get the results. And so that even carried on going into pharmacy school even more, was putting in the work there as well.
Now with those prereqs, I know sometimes, and I experienced this as a college student as well, kind of wondering why I'm having to take the prereqs that I'm required to. So if you guys don't mind speaking to how they actually helped you once you got into the pharmacy program.
I think the way it helped the most was in biochemistry. So that you take that your first year of pharmacy school, and it can be a pretty intense class if you weren't paying attention in undergrad. So all of those prerequisites, if we're thinking about cell biology and microbiology, well, that's how the drugs in our body are working, and that's where their receptors are at and things like that. So it's really important that we're paying attention to that basic sciences, so that when we're getting to what drug should we choose, we know the why behind what we're choosing.
I would agree with Carly with like biochem and just even in phys, when a lot of that stuff that you see in your undergrad coursework is going to carry forward. And like right now I'm on an infectious disease rotation, and it makes me like really wish I had put my microbiology like information better in my memory, just because like even that would be really helpful, just being able to be more comfortable with the different bacteria or other bugs that I'm running into on this month. So even though at the time it kind of feels like maybe busy work, or you want to just do the pharmacy stuff, like it does carry, and it's kind of going to sprinkle out throughout your coursework and your experiences.
So it sounds like you have to kind of build on it every single year,
Yes.
which I would assume are, the reason for prereqs. They're there for a reason. I wanted to ask kind of, so after you did your prereqs, you took the Pcat, what was that process like for you guys applying? Did you look into other pharmacy programs? Did you know UMKC is where you wanted to go? How did you make that decision to make the leap into pharmacy school?
So I knew I wanted to do pharmacy since high school, so that's why I chose UMKC. And so I am actually from Columbia, and I chose to kind of get away and see a new city. And so I went to Kansas City from Columbia, and I never looked back. So I did my prerequisite, and then went straight into the pharmacy program from there. I wish they had the early assurance then, because since I kind of knew what I wanted to do, I totally would have done that.
Awesome. And was it scary for you going through that application process? Do you remember that very well, and kind of your thoughts during that?
Yeah, so you use this portal called Forecast. And so that system is something where you can put all your application stuff in. And I know I had questions throughout the process, so I'd reach out to the student affairs through the pharmacy school and have all my questions answered that way. And I actually took my Pcat really early because I was afraid I wasn't going to do well. So I gave myself time to take it again. So if you were one of those people who is a little nervous, just make sure you have that time to take it. So I took it in January of my first year of pharmacy.
Oh, wow.
Year. And so
yeah.
I had a lot of content that I didn't know yet. And luckily I did well enough. I was able to not have to take it again. But that is kind of a double-edged sword, because you don't have the content, but I was trying to give myself some time just in case I didn't do well. But it's kind of up to you. I probably would have waited till summer, but that was just my experience.
So for me, I was a little different. I was originally pre-med, so that's kind of why I did 3 years of undergrad, because my first year and a half, I didn't decide to do pharmacy until a little bit halfway through my sophomore year, and so that's kind of why I was missing some of those prerequisites. But I mean, it did help me a little bit. So when I took the Pcat, I'd already finished 2 years of undergrad and a lot of my sciences, so it helped me in that way. I was also the only one in like my undergraduate group of friends that was applying to pharmacy school. So it was helpful to have like the Office of Student Affairs was really helpful. And Pharmcast is pretty easy to navigate. It kind of tells you what you need to upload and where, and kind of steps you through that as well. So I think a big thing for me is when I started thinking about pharmacy school, I started looking for jobs in a pharmacy so I could start getting experience as well. So I think that's also another beneficial thing you could do as if you haven't already.
Awesome. So now getting into once you're actually in the Pharmd program, I know I said earlier in the presentation kind of the structure and how it's set up. So 3 years are spent in the classroom, and then your 4th year of rotations. What's been that transition like from going, because you guys are currently in your 4th year, so you just spent a lot of time completing your rotations. What was that transition like from going to actually in the classroom learning this material to implementing it during your rotations?
Yeah, I'd probably say there's a little bit of a learning curve with that, is just being able to actually apply the information. One of the things that makes UMKC unique is they do Gen Med, which is a longitudinal rotation basically, where you get to spend a whole year with a faculty. And so that's where you get to start practicing those skills of applying the stuff you're learning in the classroom. And so it doesn't hit rotations so hard when you get there and you're wondering, I don't even know how to work up a patient. You already know how to do that because you did it on Gen Med. And so that's something that makes UMKC unique, because not a lot of schools do that specific part of it. And so from that standpoint, I was really glad that I had that experience going into rotations, because I think it made that transition of actually applying all of this stuff that we've learned to actual patients.
Yeah, and just to echo what Carly said, I think so after your 1st and 2nd year, you do introductory rotations and then Gen Med in your 3rd year. So you're not like just being thrown in on your 4th year into rotations. So really they kind of ease you in and you get more and more experience and exposure as you go throughout the program. And even like just learning how to give a good presentation, like you'll learn that in the classroom because you'll be giving presentations throughout your rotations as well. So I think while it's kind of a scary thing to start your 4th year, just because you're like going to be going and be asked questions in more like a real life setting, I think they do set you up to do that successfully just with Gen Med, especially because like Carly said, not a lot of schools offer that in your 3rd year of pharmacy school. So.
And speaking of rotations, what's been some of the really cool things that have happened? I know Jordan specifically, I know you did a takeover for our Instagram where you were in Alaska for part of your rotations. Do you want to share something about that?
Yeah, so the cool thing about rotations is you don't have to stay in your city. So I had the opportunity to go to Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska for a month in November and kind of experience pharmacy out there. I worked in a family medicine clinic and got to interact with a lot of medical residents, which was really cool. And then obviously on the evenings and weekends, just kind of see the state of Alaska. I know there's opportunities all over the US and there's even like international rotations. And so that was a really cool opportunity for me. I'd even set up a rotation in Washington, D.C. So there's a lot of really good opportunities to like get to travel with rotations, which I think is really fun. And just to experience pharmacy, not only like we see pharmacy in Missouri through work. So that gives you an opportunity to kind of explore what it might look like in other states, if they're more advanced than us or maybe a little bit behind. It just kind of depends, and it gives you a good wide experience. So.
Yeah, and to build off of that, you get a preference what rotations you want. So I specifically am interested in psychiatry. So I got to have 2 different rotations at different psych settings. So one was inpatient psych facility at the VA. And then the other one was very interesting. It was at a forensic psych hospital. So it was patients who had been deemed incompetent to stand trial, who had committed a crime. They came to us, we stabilized them, and then they went into the court system if they were fit to stand trial. And so that was one of my coolest rotations, was just seeing that process in just a completely unique setting.
Awesome. That's very cool. I haven't heard of that rotation site before, that experience. That's awesome. So I know one of you mentioned you get to see kind of Missouri's pharmacy state through work, and you both currently work as pharmacy technicians, correct?
Technically, I think it's a pharmacy intern, so you have to apply for a different license. So I know both of us had a job before we came into pharmacy school. So before pharmacy school, you're a pharmacy technician, so you have to apply for that license. And then once school starts in August, that's when you apply for your pharmacy intern license. And it just kind of switches to what you have more things you can do in the pharmacy than what you can have just as a pharmacy technician.
Would you recommend working as a pharmacy intern while you're in pharmacy school, or a pharmacy tech before you enter the program?
Absolutely. I would say 90% of our class works. And that's another time when you can have that hands-on application of stuff you're learning in the classroom.
Awesome.
Yeah, I currently work at CVS Pharmacy, and I've worked there. I'm going on 4.5 years there. And I just think it's really beneficial. Not only do you get to learn it in the classroom, but you can start applying it. And every year in pharmacy school, you get more and more like comfortable, like counseling patients, or just having that patient interaction at your workplace, because you're there like pretty regularly and you can build that comfort there. So I think it's beneficial, and I would definitely encourage it. And I think it is encouraged even in the classroom. So,
and don't be afraid to see things that through your work that you maybe didn't think. So I started as a retail job, and now I actually work at a hospital. And so I really enjoyed being able to see both of those, because you kind of figure out what you do and don't like, because half the time it's ruling out the things you don't like necessarily, and figuring out what you do really want to do for the rest of your life.
All the while being paid to figure that out, which is really nice. All right, my last question for you all, since graduation is coming up soon, what are you all planning on doing after you graduate?
So match day was March 13th, and I found out that I will be going to the Chillicothe VA in Ohio. So me and my family are making a little trek to Ohio, and hopefully that'll be one general year of PGY1 and then a PGY2 in psych.
Awesome. And you said match day, and just in case viewers aren't familiar with match day, that's where our students apply for different residency programs, and they get to rank which programs they are interested in, and the programs in turn do that for them, and then they are matched up with a location. And you're going to Ohio, is that what you said? Ohio, right? And Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, so I matched for residency at the Kansas City VA, so I'll be staying local. The cool thing, or like what I'm interested in, so first year is general, you kind of get a general track on your first year, but then I'm kind of looking at their second year in ambulatory care, which is kind of like clinic pharmacy almost. You manage like a lot of chronic disease states through ambulatory care, like diabetes or hypertension, like high cholesterol, things like that. There's all sorts of different types of ambulatory care, and that's something I'm excited about at the VA there as well.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to both of you. We're very excited for y'all.
Thank you.
Any last words of advice or anything else that you wanted to chat about before we let you off here?
I would say, I know we kind of touched on this, but like just take the opportunity in undergrad to really hone in on your how to study, prepping for pharmacy school. It is challenging, but it's very doable if you put the work and effort into it. So just don't get tired. I know it's easy to get burnt out fast, but just remember the end goal, I guess is what I'm saying.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I would just say if you have the opportunity to get a pharmacy job as a technician before pharmacy school, that's just one more way you can figure out that definitely pharmacy is for me, because you would hate to commit to going into pharmacy school and not have that passion behind it. And so having a job during undergrad is one of the easiest ways to just really figure out if that's what your passion for a career is.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for chatting with us. I really appreciate it. And hopefully, if our students have any questions or follow-ups from this, they can definitely reach out, and I will pass that along to you all, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you, guys. Well, I'm going to let you
you.
all go, and then I'll stay on the line here.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome. So it looks like it's just back to me. I wanted to wrap up with some final thoughts and just give you some more info before we let you go here. Let's see. So I'm sharing my screen again. And I just wanted to review the things that we discussed. So we need to have you complete your prereqs. Again, we'd love if you completed them at UMKC. You are also able to complete them at a variety of other universities if you do decide to take that route, or if you have dual credits from high school, check in with us and we can make sure that those dual credits from whatever university or college you received them from transfer into our program. You also take the Pcat. After you complete those two things, you will submit a Pharmd application. You will rank which location you want to be at. So you'll rank either Kansas City, Columbia, or Springfield in a 1, 2, 3 order. Then we will extend an interview to you. You'll come in, spend about 4 to 5 hours with our current faculty members, with some current students and alumni, just discussing why you want to do pharmacy and figure out if our program is right for you. And then within a week of that in-person interview, you will know whether or not you were offered a spot in the program and what location you were offered it in. We do rolling admission, so that means that we have our first interview in October and we roll all the way through April. So spots fill up as the year goes on. So make sure if you are really wanting to get into a certain location for our program, just make sure that you apply earlier in the cycle rather than later. And I know they touched on this a little bit, well, actually a lot of it. They really encourage shadowing in working as a pharmacy technician. So shadowing, hopefully you've done maybe a little bit of this already while you were a high school student, but we really suggest that you reach out to your local pharmacies and hospitals and try to shadow. Even if you decide not to do pharmacy and you're interested in something else in the healthcare realm, it's a really good idea to spend a day with whatever you're interested in and see if you can picture yourself working in that job as a career. They also really highly suggested working as a pharmacy technician, and I do as well. It's really easy to become eligible to work as a pharmacy tech. On the left-hand side here, that's the Kansas one, and then the right-hand side is Missouri, but every state will have one. But it's really simple. You fill out this form, you send in a fingerprint to make sure you don't have a criminal background that'll interfere with you working as a pharmacy technician. Some of them have fees associated with it. I think Missouri's is $35. So you send all that info in and they send you back basically a slip of a paper that says you're good to go. So then you can take that and apply to CVS, Hy-Vee, Walgreens, Target, whatever pharmacy it might be, and start working as a pharmacy tech.